Welcome back, everybody, to this week's edition of the PGA DFS Pick Show. I am your host, John McNutt, aka John Cool 19, here for Fantasy Sports Insight, talking DraftKings PGA golf for the Sony Open. All stats that I am going to mention here in today's video are powered by Fantasy National Golf Club. Shout out to those guys for everything that they do. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. The Sony Open this week is being held, as always, at the Wailea Country Club. This is in Honolulu, Hawaii. The course is a par 70, 7,000 yards. This is much, much shorter than last week. Also a par 70, going to be a much different beast versus what golfers were up against at the Tournament of Champions last week, although it is Bermuda grass greens, as always, here in Hawaii. A couple key stats I'm looking at this week. Ball striking is my number one. I'm going to lean a little heavier on approach versus off the tee. Driving distance was important last week. We are not looking at driving distance this week. Accuracy can certainly be considered a little bit more. This is more of a tree-lined course, so accuracy being just a bit more important than we saw last week. I am not weighting that very heavily. Much rather just focus on ball striking. And then birdie or better. This is an absolute birdie fest. Not quite as bad as last week. We're not going to see somebody win probably at 30 under par or just shy of it. Probably looking at something, depending on the weather, around 17, 20 under par, somewhere in there. Maybe we should see the winner this week. Greens and regulation, very, very important. They are pretty decent sized greens. A lot of golfers hitting it, but we need birdies this week, and we're not going to make them from missing greens. As far as course history goes this week, very, very important. This is one of the courses on tour this year, one of the higher courses when it comes to a correlation of course history and performance. So I am weighting it significantly heavier than I would week to week. Those are kind of the major stats I'm looking at. If you want to look at proximity this week, a lot more shots than average will be coming in between 150 and 175 yards, as well as 175 to 200. Not going to be nearly as many chip shots, the kind of that under 100 yard range where we saw a ton of them last week. We're not going to see quite as many. There's not going to be that rollout we saw from drives, making it all the way down to the front of the green or just shy of it. We're not going to get that this week. Par 4 scoring is pretty critical. There are only two par 5s on the course. The par 3s can be kind of difficult. The par 5s are very, very easy. We're looking at a birdie or better about 50% of the time on the for both of the par 5s this week. And then sand saves. There's over 80 sand traps on this course. So absolutely golfers are going to find their way into the sand at some point this week. Sand saves I am putting into my modeling as well. So that kind of breaks down what I am looking at as far as the course stats. Go ahead and jump into my favorite plays of this week. Right at the top of the DraftKings pricing is Tom Kim, new sensation on the tour. He is the highest priced golfer on DraftKings, also the best odds to win, 10,500 on DraftKings, 11 to 1 odds to win. He is excellent on approach. He has just been smashing tournaments lately. Whenever we talk about that golfers need to be extra long on distance, he's not at, but he's still finishing high up on the leaderboard. We saw that last week when he finished 5th place on a course that we assumed you must be very long on the driver. Jon Rahm won it, long driver. Tom Kim, top 5. Colin Morikawa, top 5. Both of those guys excellent on approach, if not elite when it comes to the iron play. But Tom Kim, he is a birdie maker. He is making tons and tons of birdies right now. I'm showing he is number 1 over the last 36 rounds when it comes to making birdies. He's also excellent around the greens, and he is top 3 ball striking in this field over the last 36 rounds. So a lot to like on Tom Kim this week. I expect him to be very, very popular on DraftKings and as an outright bet for the outright winner here, 11 to 1 odds. That's not too bad for a guy like Tom Kim that's won twice over the last few months. I was at the Shriners and at the Wyndham. And if you're looking for consistency as well, his last missed cut was in May of last year. That was at the PGA Championship, really kind of around the start of his career here with the PGA Tour. So really exciting stuff for Tom Kim. Very much like him this week on DraftKings. The guy below him, though, Brian Harman. This guy, he was number 1 overall in my mix modeling over on Fantasy National Golf Club. Love Brian Harmon this week at 9,700. I think you can start your cash lineups there or find a way to jam him into your GPPs. Also, the course history is very good for Brian Harmon. He has made 9 out of 11 cuts. 4 times he was in the top 20. He did finish 48th last year. The form also for Brian Harmon is very good across the swing season. He was 15th, 23rd, and then runner-up and runner-up again in back-to-back events. He did finish 16th last week at the Century Tournament of Champions. Very good on Bermuda grass when it comes to the putting. And when I kind of ran my whole stat model, I look at short-term and long-term. He ranks top 4 in long-term and short-term for all of the categories I was looking at. If you're just looking the last 36 rounds, he's top 15 ball striking around the greens, top 20 greens in regulation. He's also a birdie maker too. So a lot to like on Brian Harmon this week. These two guys, number 1 and number 2 in my overall model. I like them both, and you can probably jam them both in DraftKings if you want to get a little bit different lower into the pricing. So let's look at some values and pivots that will help you to do that. Starting off, Ben Griffin. He is a golfer we played a ton of when it came to the swing season. He's 7,300, 130 to 1 outright odds to win. He has made the cut in 6 out of his last 7 cuts. That was during the swing season. 7 events, made 6 cuts. He also finished 3rd at the Butterfield Bermuda during that time. No course history here for Ben Griffin. He is playing a lot of the courses over the next year or so. Will be his first time. He ranks 10th overall in my model. That is excellent at a 7,300 price tag, and that includes 4th in approach, in recent approach. So I really like how the irons are playing right now. And then the ball striking, 20th overall the last 36 rounds, and he is 2nd birdie or better in this field last 36 rounds also. So a guy I really do like. Lower in the pricing can kind of help you round out a lineup. Another golfer not shown on this slide that I like a lot for value, and that's Andrew Putnam. He's got some good course history. He finished 2nd on this course in 2019, 27th last year. Excellent Bermuda putter, and he's very good on approach and around the greens too. And if you look at a bogey avoidance, he's number 1 in this field avoiding bogeys. That's Andrew Putnam at 8,000 on DraftKings, another golfer I really like. Last thing to discuss here is some low-owned pivots. If you want to jam those 2 guys I mentioned on the first slide that are absolutely going to be very popular this week, you need to be able to get a little bit different with your lineup. Here's a couple options, guys that are much lower owned than those around them in the projected ownership, around them in the pricing as far as projected ownership goes. Siwoo Kim, he's at 8,200. I'm showing him maybe around somewhere like 8% projected ownership right now. That's coming in at around half of golfers like Cam Davis, Keith Mitchell, both golfers I really like. But Siwoo Kim absolutely has the upside to win this event, and coming in at half the ownership of those guys. I like Siwoo Kim a lot for tournaments this week. Matt Kuchar, a golfer that you probably don't like clicking on him, but really he finishes very well in my model. And at 7,900, he's about half the ownership of golfers like Alex Smalley and the others I mentioned just above Siwoo Kim. A lot to like about Matt Kuchar this week. Again, this is not a course where you need to drive the heck out of the ball. You need to be accurate and then be able to play good irons and around the greens, and that is Matt Kuchar. So certainly take a look at him, maybe around the 8% ownership mark, just like Siwoo. One more guy I'll mention, and that is Brendan Todd. Again, about 8% ownership, 7,400 on DraftKings. I'm showing that to be somewhere around like half the ownership of Ben Griffin, which I mentioned I like him a lot, half of Adam Svensson, but you are getting the ownership discount versus other golfers who are also very good outright in this area. But Brendan Todd, certainly his game of accuracy and putting brings him to the table as far as an opportunity to win this week. I like Brendan Todd a lot here as far as a GPP play, under-owned for his price there. So that is going to be it for picks. I'm going to mention our one-and-done picks. TK and I will be going through this weekly. He had some things going on tonight. He wasn't able to make it to the video, but he wanted me to mention he is going with Tom Kim this week as his one-and-done to start the season. I absolutely love it. I mentioned all the reasons earlier that I'm on Tom Kim, and TK found his way into him for him as his one-and-done option. I'm going to go ahead and take Brian Harmon. Again, all the reasons I mentioned before. I think both of these golfers would be an excellent opportunity to finish first, if not top 5, top 10. It gets you some points on your one-and-done contest. Both TK and I sitting first place. because this is the first event of the season. We'll continue to update this as we go throughout the year, all the way into August, headed into the playoffs. So that'll be really exciting to track throughout the year. That is going to do it for this week's show. I appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them here on the YouTube page. I will answer them as they come in. If you want to get in on our core plays, as well as ownership projections and weather updates, all of that coming Wednesday into Thursday morning on our Discord. Best way to find the Discord is through our Twitter page. That's at FSI_DFS. You can also go right to our website, and that is FSIDFS.com. And you can find a link to our Discord there. So yeah, join us in the Discord. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, go over our favorite options and really core plays once we've been able to look at weather and stuff getting closer. All that will be posted there. So look forward to seeing you there, and thanks for tuning in. Good luck this week.